October 1962. Two superpowers stood on the brink of total annihilation. Nuclear war was not just a possibility, it was a heartbeat away. But what if I told you that a single man, whose name you've likely never heard, may have saved the world? This is the untold story of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the spy who risked everything to prevent humanity's greatest catastrophe. The year was 1962. The Cold War had reached a boiling point. The Soviet Union was secretly installing nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from the US coast. President John F. Kennedy's administration was caught off guard. The stakes were higher than ever. One wrong move, one misunderstood signal, and the world as we knew it could vanish in a mushroom cloud. JFK, the United States will not tolerate the existence of these missile sites. But behind the public speeches and military posturing, a quiet and unseen war was being waged. A war of intelligence, secrets, and a lone spy who would risk everything. This is Oleg Penkovsky, a Soviet intelligence officer who secretly hated the regime he served. Penkovsky saw the writing on the wall. He knew the Soviet leadership was recklessly pushing the world toward disaster. So, in one of the most daring acts of espionage in modern history, he reached out to Western intelligence agencies, offering critical information that could tip the scales. But why would a high-ranking Soviet officer betray his own country? And how did this one man's actions alter the course of history forever? Keep watching, because the answer is more shocking than you might think. Penkovsky provided the West with thousands of classified Soviet documents revealing everything from missile blueprints to the locations of launch sites. This intelligence gave the Kennedy administration the upper hand, confirming that the Soviets had lied about their nuclear capabilities. Armed with this knowledge, JFK could call Nikita Khrushchev's bluff, but time was running out. US military leaders were pushing for an immediate airstrike on Cuba, an act that would almost certainly trigger World War III. And then a single moment changed everything. A Soviet submarine commander misinterpreted US naval actions as an act of war and reached for the nuclear launch button. What happened next will send chills down your spine. October 27, 1962, known as Black Saturday. This was the closest the world ever came to nuclear war. A Soviet submarine, armed with a nuclear torpedo, was cornered by US Navy ships. Believing they were under attack, the submarine commander prepared to launch, a decision that would have triggered an all-out nuclear exchange. But Vasily Arkhipov, a senior officer on board, refused to authorize the launch. His bravery and calm under pressure averted disaster. Still, the crisis wasn't over. The fate of the world now rested on negotiations between two men, JFK and Khrushchev. Meanwhile, Penkovsky's betrayal had not gone unnoticed. The KGB discovered his treachery, and he was arrested, interrogated, and executed in 1963. He died knowing his actions had likely prevented a nuclear holocaust. But his story remained buried for decades, overshadowed by the broader narrative of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Oleg Penkovsky paid the ultimate price for his bravery. And while the Cuban Missile Crisis is often remembered as a showdown between two superpowers, the quiet heroism of one man in the shadows was what truly tipped the scales. Today, we live in a world shaped by moments like these. Moments where ordinary individuals made extraordinary sacrifices. Oleg Penkovsky's name may not be as famous as Kennedy's or Khrushchev's, but his legacy endures. He reminds us that even in the darkest times, courage and conviction can change the course of history. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, consider supporting this channel. I have a tip jar through the Buy Me a Coffee program. The link is in the description below. Of course, there's no obligation, but if you enjoyed this video, a like, a comment, or even sharing it with a friend goes a long way in helping this channel grow. Thank you for watching, and let's keep exploring the stories that shape our world.